That is crazy. I like this phone. This is a nice phone.
Welcome back to Cartridge Based Radio. This is Brad, and once again, I am joined by Donald.
Ew.
Hey, so, burning question. The whole nation wants to know, what'd you play this week?
First, I'd like to apologize. My throat hurts a little bit, so I probably sound weird. And second, I played Demon's Souls.
As predicted.
So, this required me to fire up my PS3, which I quickly discovered the children had destroyed the PS3 to the point the triggers don't work anymore.
It is really hard to get PS3 controllers these days.
Also, shout out to Xbox One. That control has been a trooper with the kids. But I discovered via the internet, you can plug a PlayStation 4 control into a PS3 via USB, and it works.
I had that going for a little bit, and it worked, but there were some caveats that made it a little...
You cannot go to the dashboard with it.
Yeah.
But luckily, my PS3 control can still go to the dashboard and shut the system down. So
The other thing that I kept running into is it would keep unsyncing from my PS3. Like, I couldn't do it wirelessly. I always had to have the USB cable in. It was, like, literally possible to have it wireless once you, like, did a whole thing. But every time I would turn the PlayStation off, it would unsync, and I'd have to go through that all again.
yeah, I found that annoying, so I just got a 6-foot USB cable and said, I now have a wired control to my PS3.
Yeah,
And
I just broke down and bought a third-party controller.
so I have been going through this game, and when we talked, Dark Souls is like 100. Dark Souls 3 is like 125 hours.
Yeah.
Bloodborne took me about 110. Dark Souls 1, I managed to do in 80.
Oh, it's the lightweight.
Dark Souls 2, it took me about 210.
Jeez.
And I'm at 25 hours, and I'm knocking on the back door of the last boss.
So, Demon's Souls is the reasonably paced game in this series.
So I think when Demon's Souls came out, and the reason people think back to Demon's Souls, if you started there, like, this game was extremely hard, is because it was basically the first. So they're exposed to this world that's just punishingly hard if you screw up. But I started at Bloodborne and then went back through 3 Dark Souls games, and now I'm arriving at Demon's Souls, and I'm like, what you got, Grandpa? And just ran it over. And the thing I like about the Souls games the most is when you get to the boss, you know that you're going to have to learn the boss's patterns and be on your A game to beat this boss. These bosses are the biggest jokes in this franchise. The one boss I had trouble with is because the AI in the game was so stupid, it couldn't figure out how to get it from flying in the air back down to the ground where you fight it.
Ah.
You could literally see the code smashing into itself trying to figure out how to land this thing. And at no part in development, they're like, maybe we shouldn't have it fly. And their solution was, if you don't kill one fast enough, a clone of the boss comes in, and then you have to fight 2 of them.
That sounds terrible.
And then they both start flying, and they both can't figure out how to land. And you're like... And then they do this shout move that knocks you off the bridge, and you die. And I finally broke down. I was like, I have to read how to do this. And most of the guides were like, you gotta just get real lucky and hope they stay on the ground long enough to kill them.
Oh, jeez.
It's like, okay. That's the only boss that's given me trouble so far. I think it's like 14 bosses so far, and I meet them one time, and I kill them, and move on. And I love the world.
Yeah.
Like, it's got this really claustrophobic feel, and they use the PlayStation 3's, kind of PlayStation 3 had a muddy look to it.
Yeah, yeah.
They leaned way into that, and it's super dark and dreary, and they put all the PS3's horsepower behind lighting to give a great atmosphere. And it's got neat enemy encounters and all this stuff. Just, I wish the boss encounters were better. And then there's these archdemons you have to fight. And instead of being like a cool fight, it's like a puzzle. So you do this mini puzzle and then you win the fight. And it's super unsatisfying to go up against someone named Dragon God, and all you have to do is pull 2 levers and then hit him twice and he dies. Like, I fought gods in Dark Souls 3 and it almost made me cry. And then there's this guy who's like, I can be beat by these giant crossbows pointed at my head for some reason. Just don't pull those levers.
Now, to be fair, fighting a giant monster and defeating it simply by like pulling a lever or pushing a button sounds exactly like the Rancor fight in Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, worst fight in a movie. Luke throws a rock. He's like, I'm a mighty Jedi. Yeah.
It sounds like Demon's Souls was a lot shorter than you were expecting.
It was, and I don't know if it was because I've spent like a year and a half training in the Souls series, and then when I came up against it, I was like, I know exactly how I want to build my character, I know what kind of weapon I want, I know how I want to upgrade it, and just my knowledge base up against a game that came out 9 years ago is making it where I'm not finding it terribly difficult.
Yeah, I think character building, when I played Dark Souls, building the character, I think, was probably like one of the places where just right off the bat, I just kind of went all wrong and made the game even harder than it already was, because I put almost all my points into cowardice, and that did not pay dividends.
Oh, the secret hidden stat.
My equipment was all like made by Nike. It was just like a bunch of basketball shorts and like workout gear.
You're like, how did I end up with Mike the Situation in Dark Souls?
I was specifically trying to build Steve Harrington from Stranger Things, but I ended up as the Sitch. Damn it. Where's my nail bat? Why do I have these abs?
These are airbrushed on. Besides Demon's Souls, which
I was going to say, if Demon's Souls didn't take as long as you thought, you probably had some extra time this week to play another game.
I did have some extra time. And I was going through my Steam library because it has gotten out of hand, and sometimes I feel bad there's stuff in there I haven't played. I came across one...
How out of hand is your Steam library?
523 games.
That you haven't played?
I think it says I've played 12% of them. There's a lot of Humble Bundle at blame here.
I mean, you've got probably $45 worth of games that you haven't played there.
It's Steam sales. You know how it is.
Yeah. Definitely $45-50 worth of games and those 500 plus that you haven't played.
So I came across one, and this is a horrible gaming shame for me, and it's Far Cry 3. And I've started Far Cry 3 10 times in my life. And I get about 4 or 5 hours in, and I'm like, I don't want to play Far Cry 3 anymore. I'm having fun playing Far Cry 3, but what happens is I push the M button and it brings up my map, and Brad, there is so much crap on that map. I just look at it all and I go, no, and I quit Far Cry 3. And I've also started doing this in all open world games. Like, if there's too much stuff on the map, I'm like, no, and I'll just quit. Like Horizon Zero Dawn, everyone's like, you have to play this. This is an amazing game. And it's like, you get to a certain point, it's like, okay, now we're going to give you all the things you can do. And the map just basically becomes icons. And I'm like, there is too much to do here, and I feel overwhelmed, and I'm being flooded with anxiety.
So I love Far Cry 3 to the degree that I didn't actually play Far Cry 3 this week, but I'm just going to say that I did because now I want to talk about Far Cry 3. It is one of my favorite games. I get, being kind of overwhelmed by the map because it's covered in wild animals and radio towers and little treasures to pick up. But, it's like going to Disney World and getting the map of the park, and it's just covered in all these fun things to do. And I mean, in that situation, you won't be like, oh, this is too much fun, I don't want to do this, let's go back to the hotel. You'd be like, oh, right, look at all these fun things to do. Far Cry 3 is the same way. Like, it's a map full of things, but it's all like little bits of joy.
So I decided to come at this game at another angle this time because I really want to play Far Cry 3. And it's actually goes back to something you once told me, that I played Fallout 4 wrong. I played the story and I decided Fallout 4 is a garbage game. And you told me that I shouldn't have engaged with the story and I should have played Fallout 4. Just so it keeps begging me to go to the second mission. It's like, please go to the second mission. You are 7 hours in, go to the second mission. And I'm sitting on 23 skill points I can't use.
Yeah, that is the one thing that they try to incentivize you with to actually play the game, is you don't unlock most of your skills until you do certain missions.
So what I did is I bought a bow and arrow.
Yes.
I went out and I upgraded my quiver, and then I went out and upgraded my rucksack.
Okay.
And then I went and got my wallet. And I have been systematically going to a radio tower, then taking out the 2 encampments around it. And after 7 hours, I'd say I have about 35% of the map in the green.
Yeah, taking out the outposts is probably my favorite part of that game. Far Cry 3, for being, like set in more or less modern times and, with guns and grenades and stuff, is probably my favorite ninja game. Because, you just like sneak around and, creep up behind people and stab them in the back, shoot them with arrows, let wild animals loose on them, and they all get mauled. Yeah, you're doing Far Cry 3 right now. You're doing all the fun parts.
Yeah, the last times I played it, I was like, oh, this must be about guns. And you just get shredded in the early game because you have like 2 health things and they can just take you apart. But when they don't see where you are or know what's happening, because arrows just start popping up in their buddies' heads and they get confused. Yeah, super stealth Far Cry 3 is completely amazing. And I don't care that it's screaming at me to go see a doctor about mushrooms. I'm going to liberate that entire island, because at this point I've done like 9 radio towers, and most of the guns in the store are now free. So if I want to get a bazooka and cause havoc, I can do that. But when I start the story, here's my question. If I have everything on my side, and the guy's like, oh, you have to go take out this camp, is he going to tell me I need to take out the camp, or just be like, oh, okay, here's the reward that I was going to give you when you come back. Crap.
I think they actually did a good job of segregating like mission locations from free play locations. So, he's going to tell you to take out a camp, but it's going to be one of the camps that like did not exist previously. They'll be like, take out this magic camp that just sprang up overnight.
Well, I'm glad there's going to be more camps for me to take out. I don't like my Rebel Buddy friends.
No, they're terrible.
I've watched them get in Jeeps so many times and run each other over, and then they only give me $1 if I loot the body, and I need more than $1 because I need $6,000 in my pocket at all time.
Just like real life.
The story obviously has this disconnect when I play, because your character's like, I don't want to kill people. I'm a good rich kid. But the minute they give me control, I'm like a super murder machine. So he went from stabbing one guy in the head with a knife to I've killed like hundreds of people at this point. But when I start the story eventually, after I've, cleared the outposts and collected letters from World War II and got all the little idol thing, I think it's going to just be really weird to see how he talks about how he doesn't want to kill people, even though he's literally drenched in blood.
He's just like wearing clothes made out of endangered species. And they're like, oh, you're going to have to hunt like a wild dog. And it's like, oh, I don't want to kill a dog. Have you seen my zebra gun bag?
Have you seen my shark fin hat? I killed a shark by standing on the bow of a boat with a sniper rifle and shooting straight down into the thing. It was awesome. So, I am going to finish Far Cry 3 this time. I need you to hold me to that, because usually it's the characters in a Far Cry game that make me want to stop. Like, everyone acts really tough, even though I basically cleaned off an island so far. It's like, don't act tough to me.
There are some fun characters in Far Cry 3. Not your friends, who are all terrible. One of the bad guys is super fun, and it's a shame because he's a slave trader, amongst other terrible habits. He's a really terrible person, but he's also just so much fun to be around. And it's like, I just want to keep doing treasure hunts with you, Buck, instead of like finding my stupid, horrible friends.
I'm not inspired to save any of them after watching that opening video where they're being horrible humans. It's like,
Yeah, I mean, it is the story of you, like, going from, like, being, like, this, like, terrible, douchey waste of a person to, you know, like, this disciplined freedom fighter. But your friends are mostly just terrible.
become the blood-soaked god of an island. So, those are what I played.
I also, for all intents and purposes of the show, played Far Cry 3 this week. And it was great, because it's always great. Yeah. I also played the Mega Man Collection, 1 through 6, but we can talk about that next week. all right. So that's been What'd You Play This Week for Donald and me, Brad, and we will talk again in 2 weeks.